Can plasma cut metal? Yes, it can. But there are a bunch of details. Hello, my name is Greg Friedman, and on this channel I'd like to chat to you about different topics, including plasma topics, and this is the Can Plasma series. So can plasma cut metal? Absolutely. It is probably one of the most industrially used, widely used applications for plasma. I mean, when you go to Home Depot, there are a bunch of different plasma welders and plasma cutters, but welding is another time. Let's talk about cutting. So plasma, thermal plasma, you create an arc between two electrodes. Now, this is important. Which is the second electrode? So you can create an arc between powered electrode and the metal you're cutting. That arc will melt that metal. It'll just drip away, and you can move the arc around and cut that metal sheet. It's going to be not a very nice cut, but it's doable, so technically that's cutting. Typically, with plasma cutters, both electrodes, the positive and the negative, are inside of the handle, and then you pass gas through the thermal arc, heating up the gas and using very, very hot jet of air or gas or argon or nitrogen or argon CO2 mixture, argon helium mixture, helium or whatever. And you're using that super hot gas to heat up the metal and blow out the molten metal and move around as you cut. Now that's the more typical, that's the kind of plasma cutter you can pick up at Home Depot or at Lowe's or at any other hardware store of your preference. Now there are more interesting thermal plasma metal cutting applications. There are micro cutting techniques where similar configuration but much, much lower power is used to cut metals, where the cut through a thin sheet of metal can be done at relatively low power with relatively high precision. Arguably, laser cutters are also plasma cutters. You use focused, powerful laser beam to focus it on a surface, and the rest of the story is just about the same. So laser forms plasma at the surface, and this plasma gets really, really hot, melts the metal, and then it's the same thing. Laser cutters tend to be a lot more precise because you're controlling the focus of the beam. It's a lot easier to control that with a laser than with high velocity gas. I'm trying to think of what other applications. So can plasma cut other things? Well, yeah, you have a jet of really, really hot gas. Can you cut plastic? Sure. Can you cut glass? Absolutely. It's not going to do as good of a job as other cutting methods, but I'm sure it can be done in a pinch. There's going to be lots of smoke, though, so you might want to, especially if you're cutting plastic, you might want to use something other than plasma jet, especially air plasma jet. Maybe an argon or nitrogen, it could work. But yeah, in short, plasma is widely used for metal cutting in all sorts of fabrication, and it's a well-established technique. The cool stuff that the research field is exploring right now is using plasmas, for example, in space, for space manufacturing or on Mars, to build structures on Mars. We've even talked about using thermal plasmas to melt lunar regolith, to use that as construction materials, because you probably heard there's a space race going on, which is awesome. I am so happy we're in a space race. It's not even funny. When there is competition, it's like, capitalism. When there is competition, consumers win. So we, as humans, benefit from the fact that countries, massive countries, are competing for space dominance. That's awesome. Very cool, And there's lots of research going on how to do metal manufacturing, metal cutting out in space, and plasma definitely is a contender. But how do you make thermal plasma jets where your electricity is virtually unlimited, but other supplies, gases, they're expensive. You need to hold them up there. So tricks, magnetically rotated plasmas. You can control plasma with a magnetic field. So some interesting applications are emerging in that direction. So yeah, even though it's a very old field and widely available at local hardware store near you, there's still tons of research and tons of new stuff coming out. Well, anyway, if you have plasma questions or any other questions, please ask them down in the comment section. Happy to chat about topics that interest you. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.